Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ease of English. I'm Brian.
And I'm Abby. Thanks for being here with us today.
Abby, I have to tell you something.
Okay, go then.
That sweater you wore to recording last week, really good color on you.
Oh, thank you. That's nice of you to say.
See, that's exactly what we're talking about today.
Wait, was that a setup?
A little bit, but I also meant it.
Well, thank you. And now I feel like I should compliment you back, but it's going to sound forced.
That's the thing about compliments, isn't it? They can feel really nice to give and receive, but they can also feel a little awkward if you're not used to the rhythm of them.
Especially in a language that isn't your first language, because compliments have this whole cultural dance around them. What you say, how you respond.
Exactly, and that's what today's episode is about. How to give compliments in English, and maybe even more importantly, how to respond to them without feeling weird.
This is a good one because compliments come up all the time in English-speaking cultures. At work, with friends, with strangers, even in small talk.
They really do, and if you freeze up when someone compliments you, or if you accidentally brush it off in a way that sounds rude, it can create this little awkward moment that you didn't mean to create.
So today we're going to share 2 stories each, one about giving a compliment and one about receiving one.
And we'll talk about what worked, what felt natural, and how you can use the same patterns in your own conversations.
Let's start with giving compliments. Brian, you go first.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, I was at a coffee shop waiting for my order, and the barista who made my drink had done this really beautiful latte art, like genuinely impressive. A little leaf pattern that was perfectly symmetrical.
Those are surprisingly hard to do.
They are, and I could tell she'd put effort into it. So when she handed it to me, I said, "Wow, this looks amazing. You're really good at this."
That's a great compliment, specific and genuine.
She smiled so big. She said, "Thank you. I've been practicing." And then we had this nice little moment where she told me she'd been working on her latte art for months and was finally getting the hang of it.
So the compliment opened up a conversation.
It did, and I think that's what a good compliment does. It's not just about saying something nice, it's about noticing something real and letting the other person know you noticed.
That's a really good way to put it. All right, my turn. Mine happened at work. A colleague had just finished giving a presentation to a big group and it had gone really well. She was organized, confident, answered tough questions without getting flustered.
Those presentations are hard.
They are. So after the meeting ended and everyone was filing out, I walked up to her and said, "That was a really strong presentation. You handled those questions really well."
Direct and specific. I like that you pointed to something concrete, the way she handled questions, not just a vague, "good job."
That was intentional. I wanted her to know I'd actually been paying attention. And she said, "Oh, thank you. I was so nervous," and laughed a little. Then she said, "I really appreciate that."
That's a nice response. She accepted it without deflecting.
She did, and I could tell it meant something to her because she mentioned it again a few days later.
That's the thing about a well-timed, genuine compliment. People remember it.
Now, let's talk about receiving compliments because this is where it gets tricky for a lot of people.
It really does. Go ahead, tell us your story.
Okay, so last month I was at a friend's dinner party and I'd brought a dessert I'd made, just a simple lemon tart, nothing fancy, but I'd put some time into it.
Lemon tart is never simple.
It's all technique. Fair. Anyway, one of the guests tried it and said, "This is delicious. Did you really make this yourself?" And my absolute first instinct was to say, "Oh, it's nothing special. The recipe's really easy."
Classic deflection.
Total deflection. But I caught myself, and instead I said, "Thank you. I'm glad you like it. It's one of my favorite things to make."
That's perfect. You accepted the compliment, you were gracious, and you even added a little something personal.
It felt good, better than brushing it off. And the person smiled and said, "Well, it's amazing." And that was it. No awkwardness.
See, that's the key. When someone gives you a compliment, they're offering you something nice. If you reject it or minimize it, it can actually make them feel a little awkward, like their opinion doesn't matter.
I never thought about it that way, but you're right.
Okay, my receiving story. I was wearing a new jacket to work, just something I'd bought on a whim, and a coworker I don't know super well stopped me in the hallway and said, "Hey, great jacket."
Short and sweet?
Very. And for a second, I didn't know what to say, but I just went with the simplest thing. I said, "Oh, thanks, I just got it." And he said, "It looks good," and we both kept walking.
That's a perfect example of a low-stakes compliment exchange. Quick, easy, no big deal.
Exactly, and I think that's important to remember. Not every compliment has to turn into a long conversation. Sometimes it's just a nice moment. You say thank you, and you both move on.
But you still said thank you. You didn't ignore it or say something self-deprecating like, oh, this old thing, even though it was new.
Right, I just accepted it, and it felt fine. All right, it's time for this week's vocabulary moment. Let's look at some useful words and phrases around compliments.
First, compliment itself. As a noun, a compliment is something nice you say about someone or something. As a verb, to compliment someone means to say something nice to them. You might say, she complimented my presentation, or he gave me a compliment about my cooking.
Next, appreciate. This is a really useful word for responding to compliments. I appreciate that is a warm, sincere way to say thank you. It sounds a little more heartfelt than just thanks.
Then there's flattering. If something is flattering, it makes you feel good or look good. You might say, that's very flattering when someone says something especially nice about you. It's a polite way to acknowledge a compliment.
Another good one is genuine. A genuine compliment is one that's real and sincere, not fake or forced. You might say, that felt like a genuine compliment, or I try to only give compliments when I genuinely mean them.
There's also deflect. This is what happens when you push a compliment away instead of accepting it. Like when I almost said, oh, it's nothing special. That's deflecting. It's very common, but it's not always the best response.
Let's add gracious. If you're gracious, you're polite and kind, especially when receiving something nice. A gracious response to a compliment might be, thank you, that's very kind of you to say.
And one more, self-deprecating. This means putting yourself down. A self-deprecating response to a compliment would be something like, oh, I'm not that good, or it's nothing really. It's common, but in English-speaking cultures, it can sometimes come across as dismissive.
Let's say all the vocabulary together. Compliment, appreciate, flattering, genuine, deflect, gracious, self-deprecating.
These words will help you talk about compliments and understand how they work in English.
Take a moment now to think. How do you usually respond to compliments in your own language? Do you accept them easily, or do you tend to brush them off?
And how does that compare to what feels natural in English?
Just something to notice. No judgment, just awareness.
Now, let's talk about today's language nuance, and this is a big one. In English-speaking cultures, especially in places like the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia, the expected response to a compliment is almost always to accept it, not to reject it.
Exactly. In some cultures, if someone says, you did a great job, the polite thing to do is to say, oh no, it wasn't that good, or I just got lucky. But in English-speaking cultures, that can actually come across as rude or like you're dismissing the other person's opinion.
Exactly.
So the general rule in English is accept the compliment, say thank you, and if you want, add a small comment, but don't reject it.
Let's look at some examples of how to do this well.
Someone says, I love your shoes. A good response, thank you, I love them too. Or even just, thanks, I just got them.
Someone says, you did a great job on that report. A good response, thank you, I really appreciate that. Or, thanks, I worked hard on it.
Someone says, your English is really good. A good response, thank you, that's nice to hear. Or, thanks, I've been practicing a lot.
Notice that in all of these, the first word is thank you or thanks. That's the anchor. Everything else is optional, but the thank you is essential.
Now let's look at what not to do.
Someone says, I love your shoes. A deflecting response, oh, they're so old. This makes the person who complimented you feel a little silly for mentioning it.
Someone says, you did a great job on that report. A deflecting response, it wasn't that good. I made a lot of mistakes. This can sound like you're disagreeing with them or fishing for more compliments.
Someone says, your English is really good. A deflecting response, no, it's terrible. I make so many mistakes. This puts the other person in an awkward position because now they have to reassure you.
The key is to receive the compliment as a gift. You wouldn't hand someone a gift and then have them say, oh, this is nothing, I don't deserve this.
You just want them to say thank you and accept it.
That's a great analogy. A compliment is a gift. Just say thank you.
Before we wrap up, let's quickly cover a few tips for giving compliments in English.
First, be specific. Don't just say, "You're great." Say, "You're really good at explaining complicated things in a simple way." Specific compliments feel more genuine.
Second, compliment the effort, not just the result. "I can tell you worked really hard on this" is often more meaningful than "this is perfect."
Third, keep it appropriate. Compliment someone's work, their skills, their ideas, their style. But be careful with personal appearance compliments, especially in professional settings. Stick to things like, "That's a great color on you," rather than anything that could feel too personal.
And finally, mean it. Don't give a compliment just because you think you should. People can usually tell when a compliment isn't genuine, and that can make things more awkward, not less.
So, we've talked about giving and receiving compliments today. Our stories had the same basic thread. Be genuine, be specific, say thank you.
It's not complicated, but it does take a little practice if you're not used to it.
And that's okay. The more you do it, the more natural it feels.
One last thing before we go. This week, try giving one genuine compliment to someone. Notice something real, say it out loud, and see what happens.
And if someone compliments you, practice just saying thank you without deflecting. It might feel strange at first, but I promise it gets easier.
That brings us to the end of episode 8 of The Ease of English.
Thank you so much for listening. We love making this show, and we love hearing from you.
In our next episode, we'll be talking about how to politely disagree in English. Because sometimes you don't agree with someone, and knowing how to say that without causing offense is a really valuable skill.
Until next time, keep listening, keep practicing, and remember, English can feel easy.